Well, let's now talk about one of the political disappointments of this era, Tulsi Gabbard. She built her entire brand on opposing regime change, and now she's standing inside an administration, carrying them out. And not only that, but she's actually cheering it on. This is what she wrote in a tweet. President Trump promised the American people he would secure our borders, confront narco-terrorism, dangerous drug cartels, and drug traffickers. Kudos to our servicemen and women and intelligence operators for this flawless execution of President Trump's order to deliver on his promise through Operation Absolute Resolve, which Operation Absolute Resolve was the capture of Maduro, the regime change in Venezuela, the very thing that Tulsi Gabbard really, that was her slogan. She was known as the anti-regime change candidate. She had said it over and over again. Here is Tulsi Gabbard in 2019. The United States needs to stay out of Venezuela. Let the Venezuelan people determine their future. We don't want other countries to choose our leaders, so we have to stop trying to choose theirs. Here she is again, 2019. It's all about oil again. Bolton just exposed real motive for intervention in Venezuela. We're in conversation with major American companies now. It would make a difference if we could have American companies produce the oil in Venezuela. We both have a lot of stake here. And here she is saying Trump campaigned against regime change wars when he ran for president, but now bows to the wishes of the neocons around him, clamoring for the regime change wars he claimed to oppose, this time in Venezuela and Iran. Now she's part of the administration. She's cheering it on. Here she is again. The root cause of mass immigration to our southern border is our history of U.S. military intervention in Latin America that left countries destroyed. Before we talk about a wall, we need to end our ongoing threats of intervention, this time in Venezuela. Again, the U.S. needs to stop using our military for regime change and stop intervening in Venezuela's military. Trump is surrounded by neocon war hawks who supported regime change wars in Libya, Iraq, Syria. Now they're calling for the overthrow of governments of Venezuela and Iran. I mean, where is this, Tulsi? Neocons, neolibs, and MSN all sing from the same song sheet. War, war, war. Trump never gets positive media unless he's threatening war. Carrying out military action. Today, Venezuela. Tomorrow, Iran. Cuba. Who's next? She got that right, and that was in 2019. Throughout history, every time the U.S. topples a foreign country's dictator government, the outcome has been disastrous. Civil war, military intervention in Venezuela will wreak death and destruction to Venezuelan people and increase tensions that threaten our national security. And we don't even know what's going on in Venezuela yet. I mean, at this point, I don't think things are going the way the administration thought they would go. That is kind of the big, that seems to be the big takeaway. It doesn't seem like the administration is getting the grip on the government like they really truly hoped they would get. But, that could be, it's all smoke and mirrors at this point. Let's listen to what Tulsi used to say.
And at CNBC today, Vice President Mike Pence said that embattled Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro must go. I wonder about the neocons, if they're coming back, Congresswoman, and whether they see an opportunity in Latin America. You hear the Vice President, they're saying everything's on the table, military action, everything. The thought of the United States Army going into Venezuela, what do you make of it?
Yeah, look, this administration and the neocon war hawks that surround President Trump have made no secret about what their intentions are to further this regime change effort, both in Venezuela as well as in Iran. So we're hearing these war drums beating. President Trump is acting not with our interests in mind, not with the American people's interest in mind, and moving forward with something that will prove to be very, very costly.
How can a president who ran against stupid wars, and I loved it when Trump said that, I'm against stupid wars, hire John Bolton, Sheldon Adelson's guy, his pick. And why did he bring Elliot Abrams back in on Latin America? I mean, what's going on? He brought the Neos in to do their old stuff again. How do you explain that switch?
That's a great question. We do have a situation with a cabinet full of neocon war hawks whose history is very well known in leading our country into one regime change war after the other, and to great expense in American lives, to trillions of dollars coming out of our taxpayers' pockets, as well as the lives and the suffering and the devastation of the people in the countries where we've waged these wars. What we are hearing is an increased saber rattling intentions, saying the United States needs to send in the U.S. military now to wage yet another wasteful, counterproductive regime change war. And once again, it's being done under the guise of humanitarianism. When we look throughout history, every time the United States goes into another country and topples a dictator or topples a government, the outcome has been disastrous for the people in these countries. That's why we should use our leadership in the world to try to broker a diplomatic solution, working with countries like Russia that have great influence over Venezuela, so that there is a peaceful outcome. Because I can tell you as a soldier, Martha, I've seen firsthand the high cost of war, and pushing for this civil war, pushing for the use of military force will only end up with more suffering and death and disaster for the Venezuelan people. What to speak of increasing these tensions that threaten our own national security.
Remember this one too?
The United States needs to keep our hands off Venezuela and let the Venezuelan people determine their own future. And as president, I would continue that policy, both in countries like Venezuela and others, and end these destructive and wasteful regime change wars that have proven so costly on us, the American people, on our troops and service members and their families, and have proven to cause more problems, increase suffering, increase instability for the people in the countries where we wage these wars. In Latin America especially, we only have to look to history to see what happens when the United States comes in and tries to act as the world's police, toppling governments and leaders and dictators that they don't like. It is the people who always end up suffering the most, both in the short term as well as the long term.
That looked like my friends there at the Convo Catch, but I'm not really sure if that was their clip or not, but shout out to them. Back in the day, Tulsi, who was anti-regime change, was friendly to all of us who were anti-regime change, but not so much anymore.
I jumped at the opportunity, booked a flight, got on a red-eye, landed in New York City, and about an hour or two after I landed, went to Trump Tower to meet then President-elect Trump. First time I'd ever met him. And it was his first meeting of the day, went into his office. He was very kind. He was very welcoming. And I sat across his desk from him, and we had a conversation for about an hour about foreign policy. And I talked to him about why we should stop being the policemen of the world, why we need to bring about an end to regime change wars. And shared my own experiences with him. It was a very substantive conversation. He listened to what I had to say. He asked questions, follow-up questions. It was a very thoughtful, substantive conversation for about an hour. And I walked out of there with a very different impression, as Bobby said, a very different impression than the one that I had seen portrayed on television.
Now, look, I'm not going to blame her for joining the Trump administration. I'm not going to blame her for having these conversations with Trump. I think he sold her what she wanted to hear and what many of her backers and her supporters believed in, which was he was against regime change. That's what we all heard from him. That's what he sold to all of us. But it turns out it was a lie. It turns out he's literally no different than Bush. He is no different. He's doing the exact same stuff, everything at the behest of Israel or at the behest of the oil tycoons who want more money. And that's what all of this is. So he's really not showcasing to be any different. The only thing that he's not doing, although it's debatable, he's not invading Iraq. He's not invading Afghanistan. He's not doing boots on the ground, actual, boots on the ground invasions. Okay, that does make him a bit different and maybe better than Bush, but he was backing and paying for a genocide openly with the Israelis. So I think it's a toss-up at this point, which one's worse. Here's Tulsi again when she was battling Kamala Harris.
What Senator Harris is doing is unfortunately continuing to traffic in lies and smears and innuendos because she cannot challenge the substance of the argument that I'm making, the leadership and the change that I'm seeking to bring in our foreign policy, which only makes me guess that she will, as president, continue the status quo, continue the Bush-Clinton-Trump foreign policy of regime change wars, which is deeply destructive. This is personal to me because I served in Iraq. I left my seat in the state legislature in Hawaii, volunteered to deploy to Iraq, where I served in a medical unit where every single day I saw the terribly high human cost of war. I take very seriously the responsibility that the president has to serve as commander-in-chief.
And now she's cheering on regime change. And we haven't seen the end of it. We actually do not know what is going to happen in Venezuela. Taking out Maduro, bringing him to New York to stand trial could just be the very beginning of what the Trump administration ends up doing. And it could end up resulting with boots on the ground. Another traitor that I want to, or traitor's kind of a harsh word, traitor to the movement, the anti-war, the anti-regime change, the America First movement, I should say. Not a traitor to the country necessarily. No, these two are doing the bidding of the country completely, the bidding of the neocons, the oil tycoons, the establishment people, the shadowy figures behind the curtains. They're now doing the bidding of that. But here's another person who I would say really ended up stabbing Americans in the back, and that would be J.D. Vance. And here he is admitting, oh, we didn't take out Maduro for democracy. We did it for the oil.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Taking out a dictator in Venezuela. How does that help the average American?
Well, a few things, Jesse. First of all, what it means is we're going to be able to control the incredible natural resources of Venezuela.
Wow. We're going to be able to control the natural resources of a different sovereign country because we're tyrannical goons that go around looting.
Which is good for America in a few ways. Number one, it allows us to put leverage on our enemies. Number two, it makes sure that if Americans need high quality, low cost power, we're always going to have access to it. And
because we're going to steal from somebody else.
The third thing is it does demonstrate American military excellence, which makes people afraid to cross us in the future.
So we're bullies. It showed we're bullies.
The best ways that you maintain the peace is to make it clear that you carry a very strong sword if you ever need to use it. So
we're no longer Captain America, the good guys, the heroes of the world. No, fear us because we're assholes.
I think it's good for us in a lot of different ways. We also have to remember, Jesse, this is in our neighborhood. This is not Iraq. This is not 7,000 miles away. This is in our neighborhood. If we cannot follow the basic principle, which has been a cornerstone of American foreign policy for 200 years, that we control our neighborhood, a lot of bad people are going to take advantage of it. What the President of the United States said is, in our neighborhood, the United States calls the shots. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it is again under the President's leadership.
That to me is the only justifiable action, not to do what the government did, which was take Maduro out and, take him to New York and kidnap the guy. Not that, but I do think it is a reasonable thing to think that we would want to be the dominant force in our region of the world. But again, I question the method of being bullies and getting it by force rather than trying to make deals, trying to build up the countries around us, trying to make the neighborhood better. We're the jerks that move into the neighborhood. We keep everyone around us poor. We're siphoning off all the resources. Let's say somehow we're able to basically get them for all the milk money, so it's all the tax dollars. And we're able to keep our house looking shiny and clean and wonderful while we ensure that theirs go into ruin. That's not the best type of neighbor to be. But if you're a neighbor and you say, look, I want the whole neighborhood to look nice. I want the whole neighborhood to be safe and secure. I want the whole neighborhood to thrive. I want all of my neighbors to be healthy and eating well and educated and everybody to be having a great time. That is the type of neighbor that you want moving into your neighborhood, not the guy that's going to be the Grinch that siphons off all the resources. And that's what we've become. I think it's logical and reasonable and even probably a matter of national security to ensure that we have everybody in our neighborhood in our sphere of influence. But the way to do it is not through bullying and force. That's my point. Here's Donald Trump, also another stab us in the back moment. He released this out. I think this came out today. He says, let's go to full screen so we can really see it here. When did he release this? This was this morning, wasn't it? No, this was yesterday. Okay. So he says, after long and difficult negotiations with senators, congressmen, secretaries, and other political representatives, I've determined that for the good of our country, especially in these very troubled and dangerous times, our military budget for the year 2027 should not be $1 trillion. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad you're saying that. You're right. It's way too high. He says, but rather $1.5 trillion. What? What? $1 trillion isn't enough for you? You now need $1.5 trillion? Are you kidding me? He says this will allow us to build the dream military that we have long been entitled to, and more importantly, that will keep us safe and secure regardless of foe. If it weren't for the tremendous numbers being produced by tariffs from other countries, many of which in the past have ripped off the United States at levels never seen before, I would stay at the $1 trillion number, but because of tariffs and the tremendous income that they bring, which is a tax on Americans, amounts being generated that would have been unthinkable in the past, especially just 1 year ago, the sleepy Joe Biden administration, the worst president in the history of our country. Pretty sure you're taking the title, Betty. We are able to easily hit the $1.5 trillion number while at the same time producing an unparalleled military force and having the ability to, at the same time, pay down debt and likewise pay a substantial dividend to moderate income patriots within our country. So we're being taxed. This is socialism, actually, dressed up as warmongering. He's saying that the tax that they've levied on us through the cost of goods going up, they're going to take that revenue that they're taxing us and they're going to use it for more military. And oh yeah, they're going to pay down some debt and they're going to maybe give you a little bit of money so that you shut up about it. Stabbed in the back again. I mean, just every day it feels like Donald J. Trump stabs us in the back. Another campaign promise gone. Another reason Americans voted for him dead. That's what we're dealing with. $1.5 trillion. Are you kidding me? Because why? Oh, you foresee World War III that you're marching us into. Yeah, I see that too. Oh, you think that, no. If we just have a big mighty military and we show that we could kidnap leaders in the middle of the night from anywhere in the world, then nobody will mess with us. We'll never go to World War III. No, that is the fastest way to march your ass right into World War III when the entire world hates your guts and they want your power completely leveled. The world will get together and it will be not a world war. It will be the world against America war and Israel. That's what it will be. $1.5 trillion this clown is asking for now. I mean, we got totally... They did it again. And the worst thing about all of this, because this is just more of the same. I mean, really, it's not like Donald Trump is doing anything outside of the norm. He's just being normal. He's doing exactly what every other president before him did. He's doing exactly what the neocons and the oil tycoons and the Zionists, he's doing what all of them want, just like every other president before him. The real sad thing about this is now all hope is lost. Will Americans ever trust any candidate ever again? We've been duped now over and over and over and over again. How stupid are we? Are we really? That's what it boils down to at this point. People are just going to stop voting because what's the point of voting? We don't live in a democracy. We don't have any say. The American people were loud and clear with the referendum when they voted Donald Trump in what they wanted, and we've got none of it. None of it. So, joke's on us. Joke's on us. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson show, which you can watch Monday through Friday.